Okay, many thanks to our esteemed panelists. I'm going to start with Sara first and ask her a question about pensions. So, Sara, can you tell us a little bit about issues with governance of pension funds in Iran?
Thank you very much. Allow me just to get the Middle Eastern exchange of pleasantries out of the way by thanking Nufti for organizing this event and thanking all of the contributors and all the panel speakers and organizers for all the hard work that they put into this event. I think one of the key themes that became very obvious throughout reviewing your paper on pension system and listening to all the contributors for that matter this morning, it became very obvious that one of the major challenges that we're facing today in Iran is the issue of governance. And we started off our day with a very moving video about having a vision, having a visual image about the future of Iran. And I think what I see as a key challenge for the pension fund system and pension system in Iran as a key governance challenge is lack of a vision that is focused on shaping and forming a pension system that deals with old age crisis. A system that is dedicated and designed to create a pension system that is sustainable, it's efficient, and it is fair. Of course, being in DC and just sitting across the World Bank, you can't just make a comment about issue of governance without paying respect to some of the guidelines that, for example, the World Bank has created back in the 90s, and then they revised it in 2005, about the 5 pillars of a pension system, right? Pillar number 0 is the universal basic system. It's to address poverty. Pillar number 1 is mandatory public pension. Pillar number 2 is mandatory private pension. Pillar number 4 is voluntary private saving. And pillar number 5 is the informal system. In Iran, unfortunately, the first pillar, which is the universal basic, is half-heartedly there. It's not efficient. It doesn't really address the issue of poverty, obviously. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been dealing with this widespread question of poverty, especially amongst the pensioners. Pillar number 1, as you highlighted in your excellent presentation and in your paper, it has its own flaws and problems, specifically, with the contribution system and so on and so forth. Pillar number 3 and 4 are non-existent because we don't have any private pension scheme in Iran. And the last one, which is the informal one, which is the traditional sort of a very important integral part of our Eastern culture, which I personally think it's something that we should really take pride of, is the informal support of us as the working age population, the younger Iranians, for our elderly people. That is diminishing in Iran, simply because, all those sad stories that was said about budgets and inflation and so on and so forth, because even younger generations can't really afford to look after themselves, let alone looking after their elderly parents. So all of these I strongly believe that boils down to the question of governance and efficiency of governance. You could have paid system and not, you could have 12% contribution and not, but once you do not have a governance system that is dedicated to looking into these issues and dedicated to be able and brave to make reforms that are required across the board, because you cannot solve the pension problem as an isolated issue. It's interlinked with budget, it's interlinked with monetary policy, it's interlinked with fiscal policy, it's interlinked with foreign policy. Once you do have governance model that is willing and aware and dedicated to choose these approaches, then you would be able. Sorry, I just brought this for you earlier. By the way, I forgot to give it to you. It's very difficult to address these challenges. Now, I don't want to take more time because once I start speaking, it's a little bit hard to stop me from speaking. But I will offer some specific points about how to address this question of governance in the next round.
And we'll cover that in the next round if you don't mind. So I'm going to follow up with a question to Dr. Saidi. Dr. Saidi, can you tell us about issues with quality control in the Iranian healthcare system?
ممنون پیام جان. من اولا بگم همچون پسرم میگم من انگلیسی بلد نیستم. فارسی جوابتون رو میدم چون یکی از المان‌های مهم هویت ما زبان فارسی هست و 2 هفته دیگه ما بزرگداشت فردوسی رو داریم. من اول تشکر میکنم از نفتی و پروژه IPP که مسئله هلتکر رو آوردن به یکی از مسائلی که اینجا بحث میکنیم. ولی اون چیزی که شما بحث کردید پیام جان عمدتاً درباره هلتکر اکونومیکس بود. همونجوری که گفتن یک نظام بهداشتی و سلامتی المان‌های مختلفی داره که یکیش اکونومیکس، یکی شما اشاره کرده گاورننس. این خیلی مسئله مهمی هست. و همونجوری که پرنسس نور، واقعا من تبریک میگم به شما، خیلی زیبا شرح دادین مسئله بحران نظام سلامت در ایران رو نشون میده که شما چقدر اشراف دارین به این و جا داره که من به والدین شما تبریک بگم. واقعا من خیلی شگفت زده شدم از این شما گفتین و واقعا سیستم بهداشت و درمان ایران متاسفانه در آستانه فروپاشیه و من اینجا میخوام این ایده رو ارائه بدم که خوبه که IPP در این زمینه بیشتر کار کنه. شما کار خیلی خوبی در زمینه اقتصاد سلامت کردین که البته من یک سری انتقادهایی هم به اون دارم که میخوام براتون بگم قبل از که وارد بحث بشم. ولی دوستان من دیدم اشاره کردم مسئله ایجینگ در ایران مسئله مهمی هست. ولی من میخوام به شما عرض کنم که 6% جمعیت ایران بالای 65 سال هستن و این داره زیاد میشه. از اون مهمتر ما مسئله burden of disease رو داریم. میدونین 2/3 جمعیت در ایران زیر 40 سال هست. ولی بسیار این افراد به علت بیماری‌های مزمن دچار پیری زودرس و فرسودگی شدن. به عنوان مثال سن بروز سکته‌های قلبی و مغزی در دنیا در دهه 7 هست، در ایران دهه 5 هست و این یه مشکلی هست و باید خیلی در هلت کر به نظر من برای آینده ایران سرمایه گذاری کنیم، چون این الان به یک مسئله امنیت ملی مبدل شده. جامعه ایران لحاظ جسمی و حتی روانی میزان بیماری ها درش خیلی زیاد هست. اون پروپوزالی که مثلا به عنوان بسیار شما ارائه دادید درباره out of pocket expenses یا medical saving، شاید میشه پیش بینی کرد که شاید در مثلا بعد از فروپاشی این نظام اهریمنی شاید در 10-15 سال بشه اجراش کرد. ولی همونجوری که پرنس نور به خوبی اشاره کردن، بسیاری از افراد و خانواده‌ها اصلا دچار بانکراپسی شدن به این زمین. برای در آینده ایران حداقل من میتونم بگم که در کوتاه مدت و یا میان مدت باید ما خیلی در این زمین اینوست کنیم. این به عنوان مثال شما نشون دادید که 6% جی دی پی در ایران الان به سمت هلتکر میره. آمارهای این آماری که نشون شد 2019 بود. آمارهای جدید از این هم پایین‌تر رفته و این مشکلی هست و بابا برای اگه واقعا میخوام یک ایران سربلند و شکوفا داشته باشه روی این سرمایه گذاری بکنیم. برگردم به اون مسئله شما که درباره کوالیتی گفتید. این مسئله خیلی مهمی هست. متاسفانه ایران در این زمینه کار عمیقی انجام نداده. به علتی که تمام مسائل رو به صورت ایدئولوژیک و امنیتی نگاه میکنه. به عنوان مثال در امریکا رو من خدمتتون عرض کنم، ما رگولیتوری بادی های متعدد داریم که روی مسئله رگولیشن کوالیتی خیلی تمرکز داره که مطمئن بشه که هلت کیر سیستم یه سیستمی هست که سیف هست، افکتیو هست، افیشنت هست، اکویتبل هست و میتونه آوتکام خوبی رو در نهایت برای جامعه مهیا بکنه. و ما لازمه که در آینده ایران بتونیم این سیستم ها رو ببینیم، مثل سیستم هایی که در اینجا از شما شنیدید، مثلا CMS، FDA، جوینت کامیشن. و باید این سیستم ها رو ما در ایران بتونیم پیش بینی کنیم که میتونن همین پروژه IPP در هلت کیر ریفورم در ایران میتونه خیلی روی این کار بکنه و ما ایرانیان رو به صورت برجسته در امریکا و خارج از امریکا در داخل ایران داریم که میتونن ما کمک کنن که بتونیم یه سیستمی رو طراحی بکنیم که نه تنها لحاظ کیفیت ولی لحاظ کمیت هم یه سیستمی باشه که شفاف باشه، المان‌های مختلف یه هلت کیر سیستم رو اکاونتبل قرار بده و الان ما اون رو نداریم و باید این نگاه رو عوض کنیم. ما نباید به هلت کیر یک نگاه چطور بگم سیاست زده، ایدئولوژیک زده، حتی اقتصاد محور داشته باشیم. باید با یک نگاه انسان محور داشتیم، همونجوری که شما به درستی اشاره کردیم به این. و من امیدوارم که ما بتونیم در این پروژه IPP بتونیم افراد بیشتری رو انگیج کنیم و بتونیم روی این هلت کیر ریفورم کار بکنیم. منم منظور درستم سوال شما رو بیان کنم.
بله 100% و حالا توی راند دوم میرسیم به شاید یه سری جزئیات پیشنهادهایی که شما دارین برای مسئله کوالیتی کنترل و این چیزا. Okay, so I'm going to go to Pouria and Nikan now, and I'll ask them to talk about two specific areas of healthcare. Pouria, given your background in the startup world, what can you tell us about the mental health crisis in Iran?
So, hello everyone. I'm Pouria and I'm coming from the startup venture world. Mental health is really close to my heart. For the last 8 years, I dedicated my life building digital, emotional, mental well-being platforms. I founded a company called Supportive 8 years ago, and we became the fastest human-led support network in the United States, connecting people with struggle to human-led support in less than 30 seconds, 24/7 around the clock. I want to share my perspective. I want to break it down into 3 categories. One, especially for the future of Iran, accessibility and affordability. Accessibility is really challenging because you have the traditional, I'm going to make an appointment, go to an office, and it's really difficult. Clinicians are busy. It's really hard to make an appointment. It might take you weeks to see someone. Then we have the digital aspect where you have telemedicine. You can talk to a doctor online. The complicated thing about mental health is telemedicine is typically 9 to 5 during business hours, but mental health struggles happen after 5 p.m. We analyzed the traffic on our platform. Our traffic peaked after 9 p.m., went all the way up to 1 a.m. There is no one to talk to. There's no doctor online. There's no one that can actually address you.
By the way, do we have suicide hotlines in Iran or something like that?
I think recently they've started something. I don't know how effective and efficient it is, and I don't know how long you have to wait, but there is something now.
Okay. They may just tell you that it's a sin, to commit suicide, and you shouldn't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
But I want to. That's a
You'll
really
go
good,
to hell.
That's a really good point because you're suicidal, you're actively or passively suicidal. You have a plan, but then there is a lot of struggling before you get to that point, and that's where we came in. We wanted to prevent. We wanted to help you not get to the point of no return, and that's a huge area as well, and especially in the digital side. The affordability, so accessibility, you have to have something that works around the clock. We had operations in 20 plus countries to make 24/7 support happen. If you wake up with a 3 a.m. with a panic attack, we were there. If you can't sleep because you're stressed and anxious, we were there. It's midnight. The affordability, clinicians are expensive, right? Even if you have insurance, you have to pay a lot of money out of pocket. A lot of people don't afford that, especially if you have kids and family. You really don't have the money to spend on the clinician side. What we did to battle that was with our Stanford advisors, we created an academy. We recruited psychology students out of Berkeley, Stanford. We trained them for 3 months, 100 days, and then they became peer support specialists, and they could handle struggles like relationships, breakups, caregiving, parenting. and we triaged the higher acuity needs to clinician. And there is a huge clinician shortage, by the way, especially in Iran. We don't have a lot of clinicians, and the clinicians we have are already busy. So it actually helps balance the load if you have trained psychology students and tap into that market and then triage the higher acuity needs to the rest of the. My second point is on stigma. Mental health is the only side of healthcare that has huge stigma, right? In the United States, there is big stigma. When I worked in Germany as part of Digital Health Berlin startup ecosystem, there was even more stigma. Iranians are proud. We don't talk about stuff. And we just bury everything inside. But I want to make a point that in the future, we all come in, Iranians inside and outside the country, and we try to heal together with 40 years of trauma that we've gone through, and we shouldn't be ashamed of talking about it, and there will be no judgment. One of the things we did with my company is we made everything anonymous. So you come in, talk, vent, and tell everything that you need to say. My third point is on what I call hyper precision. It is personalized, this care, this future mental health platform, but it is also culturally aware. In the United States, less than 19% of therapists or clinicians are people of color. So if you're a minority, you don't have options. In Iran, this is even more complicated. We have such a beautifully diverse ethnic group. We have Azeris, we have Baluchis, we have Arabs, we have Gilaki, we have Kurd. And each of these sort of segments of the population need culturally familiar support. And that's where I end my talk.
Thank you so much. And Nikan, can you tell us about what's going on with substance abuse in Iran?
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you 3 take-home messages today that I want you to take home, tell your friends, tell your family. So 3% of Iranians battle with an opioid addiction. 10 to 15% of Iranians battle with an opioid dependency, in part because it's self-treatment for mental health, anxiety, depression, trauma. Why is this important? Number one, because a healthy Iranian is a thriving Iranian. That affects your economy, that affects your family responsibilities, that affects your social and religious responsibilities.
A quick question. How do you distinguish dependency from addiction?
Great question.
Like, what's the clinical definition?
Addiction is going out of your way, whether it be illicit, prescription, to get that medication, get that drug into your system. Whereas a dependency is something you use every day to be able to function. And so this is huge for a population of, 90 million Iranians. That's a huge workforce. That's a huge family issue that you have to be accountable for. The third take-home message I would say is, number one, this is fixable. If the First Lady here will take it as her agenda when she goes to Iran, it would be great to see we create a number of wellness centers throughout Iran. That includes 3 components. Number one, a site for mental health, a site for medication treatment, but more importantly, the third component has to be a housing component to it. There are millions of Iranians who are battling with homelessness, abuse, rape, sexual assault, physical assaults. They can't leave their husbands because they have nowhere to go, so they turn to drugs. So by having housing available at these wellness centers, these women can leave their homes and know that they have somewhere stable to go to get treatment, number one. Number two, national security. 90% of the world opium comes from Afghanistan, our neighbors. We have to secure that border. America wasn't able to do it with Afghanistan. We did it under the Bush administration. We tried burning those fields. We tried teaching them to build or to grow saffron. That didn't work. We have to secure the borders to prevent drugs from coming in. Number two, we have to prosecute and hold accountable government and non-government individuals who want to spread opium throughout the country. And number three, through the First Lady's initiative, it has to be wellness centers with the housing centers connected to it to be able to address this opium crisis. When you do that, you'll have thriving Iranians who can really do great things for our country. And really, this public health emergency has multiple implications. Economically, pensions, we talk about anything in Iran. If you don't have healthy Iranians, you can't function. And it's going to take the first 100 days are going to be instrumental. You can fix it, you can turn it around through a couple executive orders. I promise you to be successful. But those are my 3 take-home messages. I hope they resonated with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, saffron, by the way, has been shown to have mental health benefits. So if President Bush's plan had worked out, it would have been two birds with one stone, right?
It does, but I think the farmers learned that they can make more money growing opium than they can growing saffron. So we have to be smarter about that, and we have to secure the borders, block the spread, and provide the necessary treatments and housing to be able to combat this crisis. And then hopefully we can have a thriving Iran.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Now for the second round of questions, I'm going to go back to Sara. Sara, can you talk about some specific proposals that you have for improving the governance of pension funds in Iran?
Yes, sure. Looking at the main pension funds that you also covered in your paper, for example, the Social Security Investment Organization, you'd see that it is formed of a major holding with very diversified under management assets, from oil and gas to retail to supermarket to pharmaceutical, you name it. But in reality, what happens is that most of these assets are non-performing, which means less than 10% of the obligations of this fund is coming from the investments of its own assets. The rest of it is coming from the government budget, hence printing out money, fiat money, boosting inflation, pushing people more into poverty, right? So how does that happen? Through four main issues. The first one is that appointments and governance style is very much politically affected. You do not have an independent board. Management rotation is quite high sometimes. As of 2023, the organization, for example, had 5 CEOs changed over the course of 3 years. So that's for consistency point of view is also quite a disaster. But it shows.
By the way, do they have incentive pay for these CEOs or not?
Well, who knows? Because transparency, data, non-existence, and I'm going to get into that. But I'm sure that these positions come with immense amount of perks and privileges because, for example, in some cases we had during Ahmadinejad's presidency. One of the most notorious Islamic revolutionary judges was sitting on top of the organization, right? Qazi Mortazavi was the head of the organization. He had nothing to do with investment or finance whatsoever, but because he was an insider, he was offered this privileged position in order to receive hefty, handsome paid bags for his services, right? And I think one of our speakers this morning mentioned that we had 40, and if I may allow myself to sort of add to your point, it's not 40 years, unfortunately, it's 46. But we have more than 4 decades of putting people in positions based on ideological affiliation rather than merit. So we want to regain that through making this governance structure non-political. So we have different models across the world. We have directly elected models by the recipients. We have models that have obligations to report to the parliament, but they are based on their performance, based on their career, and so on and so forth. So you have a whole basket of different options, but the main focus is to make it non-political. The next question is transparency. Unfortunately, it comes in every context. Colleagues mentioned this morning that we work on the data that is produced by people that we don't really trust them, unfortunately. So transparency, production of data, sharing data is extremely important. So long as you do not have regular reporting, you do not have regular accessible data, by public, by the beneficiaries, to be able to scrutinize it, to be able to fact check it, the governance issues are going to remain in place. The next issue is accountability. who is going to be responsible for all these issues? You know, if you do not have independent, regular auditing system, then it's very difficult to have an efficient governance system. At the moment, there are on paper, for example, some auditing system, auditing processes, but they all are internal. You know, nobody looks which book, how performs which company, you know, and it's very easy to massage these numbers, to make up stories, to cover up. And last but not least is engaging beneficiaries through unions, through town halls, through allowing them to participate in online forums, online platforms. Again, for these mechanisms, for these tools, there's a whole host of possibilities. My wonderful fellow panelist comes from tech background. I'm sure these guys have plenty of tricks in their sleeves to pull out for creating such platforms to maximize engagement, because it's very, very important. Thank you.
Can I add on that? Because I think since you brought up transparency, I think Pouria and I would agree that we have to be very transparent in the sense that Iran's natural resources haven't changed in these 46 years. It's a very wealthy country. So providing basic healthcare to every Iranian should be a basic right in Iran. We shouldn't have to charge them. We shouldn't have to pay co-pays. Everybody should have basic healthcare coverage in Iran. It's simple and it's done. And there's so many ways to streamline it with people like startups like Pouria and so many other people who can create startups to bring the cost down, but I think having that coverage is super important. Let's be real.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move back to Dr. Saidi. And Dr. Saidi, in the interest of time, you might have to, summarize your answer a little bit. Sorry about that. But how would you design a quality control system for healthcare in a future Iran?
فکر کنم در درجه اول باید یک سیستمی باشه که مستقل باشه. وابسته به هیچ دولت یا هیچ گروه سیاسی یا ایدئولوژیکی نباشه، گروهی باشه مستقل باشه، گروهی باشه که بتونه اون دیتاهایی که ما احتیاج داریم که بتونیم کیفیت کار رو بررسی کنیم رو به صورت شفاف بررسی کنه، گزارش بده به مردم. این خیلی مسئله مهمی است که بتونه گزارش شفاف به مردم بده، مردم رو اینوالو کنه. یه سیستمی باشه که مردم رو اینوالو کنه در این پروسس، بتونه مطمئن باشه که ما در آینده ایران یه سیستم بهداشتی و سلامتی داریم که سیف هست، مؤثر هست، افکتیو هست و با مردم راست هست و میتونه مطالب رو بهشون ارائه بده فرای هر گونه که چه دولتی سر کار باشه، چه حزبی سر کار باشه. فکر کنم این خیلی مسئله مهمی هست که در آینده ایران ما بتونیم یک نهاد مستقلی رو طراحی بکنیم که بتونه کیفیت ارائه خدمات بهداشتی و درمانی رو در ایران به طور مستقل به مردم ارائه بده.
Okay, thank you very much. And one last question for Pouria. Pouria, tell us about the potential for personalized health apps in a future Iran.
Sure. I quickly want to second what Nikan said. I think Princess Noor also pointed to this. We need everyone free access to healthcare. It is a human right. So I do love what you brought up. So for personalized medicine, I was lucky to work at a healthcare startup early 2000, around the time 23andMe was coming out with the DNA analysis. We use DNA, blood test results, physical activity, diet, and we try to assess risks for cancers and chronic diseases. Company was sold later on, but we started another one, took it a step further. Now that you have all these data channels, DNA, microbiome, Fitbits of the world, wearables, everything else, how do you figure out supplement packages and how you figure out diet regimens? So we started selling that, kind of added e-commerce to healthcare. But I again have 3 points on this. I'll be super fast. The first one is a open API comprehensive data channels from your DNA, blood test result, diet, physical activity. All of these things come in open API. I'm done. And then the second one is the empowering physicians. University of Washington says after 5 years, everything you've learned in medical school has expired. In 73 days, the amount of healthcare knowledge has 2x'd. So we need systems where we constantly engage our physicians, empower them with new knowledge so they can serve our patients better. And the third one, again, is everyone's talking about AI, is the personalization. I don't think AI will replace humans and our physicians. I think AI will turn every doctor into the best doctor they can be. So AI will digest information and empower a doctor in a remote area of Iran to be the best doctor, for example, a doctor at the MIT level. To me, that's the future of personalized medicine for users, patients, and physicians combined.
Thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause to our panelists.